faceoff. Shoots it, deflected, right in. Pietrangelo save, rebound. Stastny stopped by Pietrangelo. I don't believe that save. Neither does Peter Stastny. He can't believe the save that Pietrangelo just made on him as Frankie Sparkly. Now that maneuver there to stop and rob Peter Stastny. He should get 5 to 10 for that.
Hello and welcome to the second episode of Tendy Talk. I am your host Joe, better known as Washed Up Goalie on social media. This week I'm excited to welcome former St. Mary's University of Minnesota teammate of mine, Eric Richardson. Eric played his high school hockey in Illinois where he won a state championship with Lake Forest Academy before heading off to St. Mary's. After a brief moment, we'll get into my conversation with Eric. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate it. And without wasting much time, how did you get into hockey? Well, first, the background for those listening, you and I, we played together at St. Mary's. Like me, you grew up in Chicago. You played your high school hockey there. How did you get into the sport of hockey? Because when we were kids, the Blackhawks were going to the finals, but their home games were not on TV. So hockey wasn't as big there as it is now.
That's true. Well, I'll just get into it. I start kind of, I think I saw a pair of goalie pads, and I think that it really sort of got me interested in playing hockey. And, my parents took me down and signed me up at the local rink, which happened to be Skokie at the time. And I initially skated out. I was a forward because that was the way to do it, to learn how to skate, to get all the fundamentals. And then that was a year. And after that, I think I passed a pair of goalie pads again in the pro shop, and that was it. I was goalie after that. So that was, I started about age 5, and 6, I was in the goal.
Did that pro shop happen to be Gunzo's?
No, it was Jerry's at the time.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Wait a second. Excuse me. It was Johnson's.
Okay.
It was way back. And then after.
Yeah, before Jerry's was on the south side by me. I remember the first pair of pads I got, we had to drive all the way to the north side to go to Gunzo's. And walking in that goalie room was like, oh, my God, this place is amazing.
I do. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, that goalie room, it was hockey mecca for us goalies in Chicago.
I do remember my first time in that goalie room. And I remember seeing at the time there were DNR pads. They looked like Graf Fuhrer's.
Yeah.
And Belfour's pads were in there at the time. So there was, they just had a room full of pads, which nobody else had at the time.
I remember they had Darren Pang's game-worn pads there, and I probably could have worn them as a squirt.
Yeah, he was a big guy.
So you skated out of Skokie. I'm assuming you played for the Flyers. Did you go play AAA with CYA or Team Illinois at all?
I did, yes. I Pee Wee year, I went to CYA. I tried out for both. I went to CYA for my first year of Pee Wees, and then the second year of Pee Wee, I went to Team Illinois, and I played a year at Team Illinois, and the second year, we had an amazing team. And we actually won a national championship that year, and that was my Bantam. No, it was Pee Wee Major. I don't know. Bantam. I don't remember. Anyways,
somewhere in junior high.
94. It was 94. And so after that, Lake Forest Academy.
Yep.
So for 4 years there, and then ended up with you at St. Mary's.
Yeah, so Lake Forest Academy, you guys played in the state championship game the first year at the United Center, which they changed the Illinois State High School Hockey Trophy to the Blackhawk Cup. So you guys were the first winners of the Blackhawk Cup. And I remember watching the game. It was on Sports Channel at the time. What was that experience like, skating at the United Center? I remember you guys probably had your entire student body out there. And correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't it an overtime game?
No, it was actually the game ended 6-2.
Okay, that's right.
But it was an amazing experience, Joe. What I remember most is walking out onto the ice and just skating out onto the ice and how white white the ice was and how bright the environment was, you know, because
And how hot it was.
And hot as well. Yeah, and you know, when you walk into, not everyone's thought of this, but when you walk into an arena and you look at an arena from the outside, the bright spot's in the middle, but actually being in the bright spot in a place like that is pretty amazing. It's like being in a big stage somewhere.
Yep. My favorite part of the movie Hoosiers is when they get to the state championship game and they're like, wow, this place is so big. And he pulls out the tape measure and shows them. It just looks big. It's the same dimensions you've been playing on your whole life. It's another game.
Right. Like every other arena, though, there's challenges to playing in a place like that. And you know, if you ever look back at that tape, the second goal, I had a problem with perspective on the puck coming in from the point.
Mm-hmm.
And I just touched it, and it ended up they scored on the rebound. But so like that's one of those things that like you just learn from experience in an arena.
Yeah, I don't know if you ever did any of the goalie camps in Chicago with Darren McCluskey, but one of the things, aside from stretching all the time, because he wound up blowing his knee out because he didn't stretch, he always instilled in us, when you go to a rink, check where those angles are, because even though the dimensions are supposed to be the same, they're not always the same. They might have those lines out an extra foot or two, and you got to figure out where those marks are for when those things happen.
Sometimes there's a little, you know, like line up quite right. And you could have that redirect right out in front.
I sort of remember my first game at Gustavus. They had that tiny rink up on the hill, and coming from our Olympic sheet at St. Mary's, that first time the puck got rung around the boards, there was maybe this much room, it felt like, behind that net at Gustavus. And I was used to our, 40 acres behind our net at St. Mary's. And I got a good push, went to the boards and fell down, and the puck went by me. And I looked at the bench, and Coach Manor was standing there laughing. And at intermission, he goes, I remember now, I forgot to tell you something about this rink. But I knew it was a smaller rink. I checked my marks, in front of me. I failed to look at the mark behind me for getting that big push to the boards, and it was just too much. Now, the one thing I remember about that state championship game for you guys was that bleach blonde hair you had with that spiked hair.
I was, when I was younger, I tried a few different things. I tried a few different
yeah.
Settle down, I think.
Yeah, well, one of your teammates, one of the Boudreaux brothers, he wound up being one of my assistant coaches my senior year of high school, and you said that the whole team had the frosted tips,
yeah,
and
it was definitely a trend at the time.
Yeah, it was that's for sure. So you played at Lake Forest Academy. What I love about Lake Forest Academy is the school nickname. It's not the traditional nickname, the Caxies. Tell us what a Caxie is.
So the Caxie originates from Aristotle's play The Frogs, and it's the sound that a Caxie makes, or that a frog makes. So it's the rivet sound.
Yep.
Here.
Yeah, I remember hearing that on the broadcast, and I went, okay. But for those that don't know much about Lake Forest Academy, it's not your traditional private school in Chicago. It's more of a boarding school where, you talk about being from Aristotle, there's more emphasis on the classics, and I would argue deeper thinking than we had in the Chicago Catholic League.
I didn't go to those schools, but I would say that for me, it was a great environment to learn in. It was a smaller classroom, more of a conversation rather than being taught.
Yeah.
And yes, I think that from where we were when I graduated, that school's come a tremendous way. They're now putting their athletes in a lot better position, student athletes into a lot better situations, and in Division I, Division III, and the campus is amazing. It's a beautiful place.
Yep. So you win a state championship at Lake Forest Academy. What brought you to St. Mary's? Because I can't imagine they were the only school that had their eyes on you after you won a state title and having the national championship as well at the younger age.
So believe it or not, there was a few different things that were working against me. I think we weren't promoted very well at that point.
Right.
As far as athletes. So as students we were, and we didn't quite get the promotion that we needed. And at any rate, I ended up with a few options. One of them was out east. It was a smaller school, and it was a brand new program at the time. And the other one was St. Mary's, and I knew Jason Trapiccio coming in from just growing up in the area and going to school together, and it seemed like as good a place as any at the time. And I enjoyed my time there. I did. Things work out the way they do.
Yeah, it's funny because Mike Walsh, he and I played high school together, and he wound up there, and that's kind of how I started hearing about it. And one of my coaches had gone to school there, so that's how I first heard about it and did the school campus tour. But unlike you, I wasn't recruited, so I was a walk-on.
Yeah, well, either way, I mean, I think I felt like I was in a similar position as you were coming in, regardless of whether you were recruited or not. There were a lot of people there for very few spots.
Yep. Yeah, I remember my freshman year, I think we had 24 goalies trying out for the 6 spots. And to this day, I still don't know why they chose me for that last spot. I'm going to ask Donnie about it. Like, what were you guys thinking? Because then you had to put.
It has to be in flexibility, Chip.
I think I think working that hockey camp prior to actually starting at school probably helped, and that was funny. My admissions counselor, as I was signing up for classes, said, "Hey, they're looking for bodies for their hockey camp. Give them a call." And I went, "Hockey every day for the summer, sure." So I called them up, and they didn't even really ask me many questions. It was more, "You can skate? Okay, yeah, be here on this day." That was my introduction to the program. And I think, were you working the camp that summer when?
I think I was, yeah.
Yeah.
The first couple summers I was.
Yeah, when we went bowling and I got the nickname Joe Bondo. that may have sealed the deal of getting me on the team. I don't know. Yeah, I still remember sophomore year when they finally put the final roster up, and they put my real name, because for all of tryouts they were putting Joe Bondo on the daily roster, and then Coach Olson, final roster, put my real name, and some freshman next to me goes, "Who's this Drennan kid?" "That's me." He's like, "No, that's not your name." "Yes, it is." "No, it's not. I had to take my license out and prove to them what my real name was." So, you mentioned my flexibility. The first time you saw me on the ice, what were you thinking in my unorthodox style?
Yeah, you had sort of this men's league flavor to you already.
Yep.
Okay, it was, let me see if I can come up with some names that you kind of.
I knew my role at that point already.
So there was like names that are coming to my head right now, like Bob Sobe.
Yep.
Kelly Rudy. But then you kind of had this whole, I can't remember his name right now, but he was a goalie for Carolina. And he was
Trevor Kidd.
Well, Trevor Kidd, but there was an older one.
Oh, Archis Urbe.
That's it.
Yeah.
But he was amazing, right? But you didn't know how he was going to get it, but he got it.
Yeah.
That's kind of where
Yeah, you are definitely much more technical than I was. That's for sure.
But that just comes with just different, experiences and where you've been and who's taught you.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter as long as your angles are sound.
Yep. And you have the drive to stop the puck. It's interesting. I listened to the In Goal magazine podcast, and they talk about never giving up on the play. And that's, Fleury makes these amazing saves, and people don't know how do you practice for that? Well, you don't. You don't give up on the play. And I think that was the thing, is I never gave up on the play. And that's why I loved playing rebound in the afternoon at school or after practice, because it was a perfect way to practice those unorthodox saves. Just throw the body out there and see what's going to get in the way.
Yeah, definitely. I think, and for me, I think my experience was a little bit different, a lot different than yours in a sense. Like, you're right. I was definitely classically trained from a young age. I mean, I started with, there's 5, I'm not going to name all the coaches, but there's certain people that stick out in your head that were just consistent. And for me,
yep,
on constant fundamentals like angles,
yep,
where's your stick? Are your gloves up? And I'll never forget the one thing Ryan S. You remember Ryan S?
Yeah, I run into him every now and then.
He said something to me that made me a better goalie in college, and he was like, bring your gloves, or after that, I don't know, before college or during college or after college. But he said, bring your arms forward, because I was pulling my arms back a little bit, rather than keeping them out in front of me, which totally cut down the angle a little bit more, for a lot of different situations.
I would say that was one thing I found really enjoyable about St. Mary's is we had 6 goalies in the program, and while we were all competing for positions, we were all each other's champion too. And we would, if we saw something in each other's game, we would point it out in practice and say, hey, try this out, or, do those little things. Me and Sean Green were always on the same end in practice, and we were always going back and forth, what did you see there? And you don't see that with a lot of programs. We just all seem to be in tune with, hey, let's make each other better, because at the end of the day, if we're better, we're going to win games, and it makes hockey a lot more fun when we win.
Yeah, I think that the one important thing that we did have there was camaraderie in that whole group. As competitive as all of our situations were, I think for the most part we liked each other.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean,
yeah, I did. I mean, at the time, I remember thinking back and being like, this, there were times where I thought that the selection of who played when was just, I was more, but it was an issue, but that was because my coaching, methodology is that I would ride a hot goal.
Yep.
That's how I would do it. But
right.
That's not how he did it. He didn't, he went, back and forth. You rotated almost every game.
Yep.
For us, at least when we were there.
Yeah.
My first year though, he rode Fred Hennon.
Yeah, he played all but like one game that my
year.
freshman year. Yeah, that I remember that.
Most of it.
Yeah, I knew my role. I was a locker room guy. I think it was freshman coined the term a JV All-Star, and that's what I was. Fastest door in the Mayak, I joke.
No, that was unacceptable to me. I couldn't have, I still kind of hated that first year.
Yeah. That was the first time I was a true backup, and it took some getting used to. But once I accepted that role, hey, I lived it up. I would come out after, I think it was the second or third period. We get those box lunches in the locker room. I'd have a sandwich or two tucked away in my breezers, so I had a snack on the bench.
You loved it up. I didn't. Yeah. I maybe did a towel every now and then.
Yeah. So one of my favorite memories of the team it would have been my freshman year, sophomore year. We had that NCAA meeting in the basement at Toner Center, and coaches are sitting in the back, and the lady from the NCAA is talking to us about drugs and alcohol. And she goes, now, if you're old enough to drink, how many drinks per hour should you have so that you don't stay drunk? And you raise your hand and you go, if I remember right back to freshman year, since I'm not 21 yet, it's 1 drink an hour. And the coaches are in the back smiling, and she's just about ready to say, yeah, good job. And you go, but if you hold the darn thing for more than 15 minutes, it gets warm. So you got to drink it quicker. And at that point, everybody's laughing. The coaches are in the back. They got their, heads in their hands. And the poor lady at the front is just going, okay, but wait an hour till you have the next one. But it was just a perfect timing. That was.
It's just the problem in the, but.
Yeah, and then it was that same year. I don't know if you watched the JV game. You guys were getting ready to go to Hamlin later that day, we had like an 11 or 12 o'clock face-off against a junior B team. And I came out and played the puck, and I just got ran and got a concussion. I knew I had a concussion when I got to the locker room, and I was halfway through eating an apple, and I realized I don't like apples. And I asked somebody next to me, I don't remember who for obvious reasons, did I get hit in the game? And they're like, oh, you got smoked. I went, I should probably go talk to the trainers. And they did the test, and like, oh, you got a concussion. You need somebody to watch you and this and that. And it's like, yeah, I can probably find somebody. And the coach just said, no, you come with us. We're getting on the bus. So poor Tarach had to sit next to me on the bus, and every bump we hit, I felt nauseous. But it was good training for him because he's a oncologist up here in Edina now. I ran into him.
That's right.
I actually ran into him last year at a baseball tournament. Our sons were playing against each other. But the poor Trotch had to babysit me that night. But we beat Hamlin at the old Coliseum. You played that night, and you got on the bus, and it was the first night of Hanukkah. And I remember you dancing up and down the aisles, leading the team in the dreidel song. None of us knew the words, but you were trying your darndest, trying to teach us that song.
That was your token Jew.
Yes, you were. And we loved you for it.
I enjoyed it there. I really did.
Yeah, those 4 years, people ask about it, and I go, hey, I was a 4-year JV All-Star, but I got to play hockey for 4 years without having to pay extra. And those are some of my fondest memories of hockey, were those 4 years, And it wasn't so much what we did on the ice, it was the locker room. We had the token naked guy, Dustin Noble, after practice would stand over he'd stand over the laundry bin, just, hey guys, what'd you think of practice today?
Yeah, it was. You're right, though. It was all about the relationships and bonds.
Yeah. So this is a fun story. When we moved into our current house about 7-8 years ago, it's our first national night out here in the neighborhood, and the fire department shows up, and this fella gets off the rig, and I look at him. He looks at me. He goes, Bondo, what are you doing here? I said, well, I live here. What are you doing here? It was Colin Emmons. He goes, well, I live in the next development over, and I'm on the fire department. I go, oh, great. And then we got talking. Yes, he's still skating. Yeah, he was too at the time. And he goes, well, let me get your number in case we need a goalie. That fall, I get a text. Hey, you interested in joining our team this fall? Is mostly Hugo firefighters. And I said, absolutely. So I've been skating with that team ever since. They've since had a few kids. So they're a little small, so he's taking some time off because our games are at bedtime. But so he got me back into skating regularly, which was kind of funny. And then,
so you guys didn't recognize each other initially?
No, at first we were just kind of looking at each other like, it can't be you. Like, what are you doing here? And then
he's an unforgettable character.
Oh, he's such a goofball. There are stories I remember about him because he lived in Ed's freshman year like I did, and some of the stories shouldn't be repeated because his kids might find out about him.
No, definitely keep those.
Yeah. And then
the headband, whoever used to wear headbands all the time, and wristbands, and just
and those high socks.
Yeah, he was amazing. He was a character.
He still is. I'll give him that. And then Nate Demars lives right down the street from me too.
Okay.
And my brother-in-law was doing some work with Nate last fall. He sent me a text saying who he was working with. I said, how do you know him? And he goes, wow, we know each other from high school. And I go, anybody on the crew call him Nasty Nate? And he goes, no, that never came up. So he went the next day, and he goes, my brother-in-law want to know if anybody calls you Nasty Nate. What's all of that about? And he goes, who's your brother-in-law? So yeah, I've run into just a few of the guys just in passing that way. So after St. Mary's, how have you stayed in the game?
So I was playing men's league for a while, competitive for a little bit, and then it sort of, I don't know. I stopped for a couple of years there.
Yep.
Then I came back to the game, and I've sort of come back in the last couple of years, I would say, with this rejuvenated sort of appreciation for the game.
Playing for the love, not so much the score at the end of the day, but just let's go out there, have fun. And
yes, but I'm so much more I think I'm a better goalie now than I ever was. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you why. I'm so much more technically sound now
Yep.
on my angles than I ever was. And maybe I'm a little slower. I probably am slower. But technically, I'm a better goalie than I ever was. You know, and I think the one of the reasons that I have sort of adjusted my game is one I probably am a little slower, so I stay a little tighter to the net in the crease. And the other is my stick handling. I've worked on that a long time.
I should.
I can this pretty well now, you know.
I should. I've never been good at it, but I've definitely gotten better at it. Ever since I started using the Turco grip, I've gotten better. Sometimes I can clear the zone.
Oh, I enjoy getting that breakout started. I want to be part of it. If I can get in the offense in the men's league, I'm fine. But you know, honestly, most of the stuff I'm playing right now is pickup.
Yeah.
It's fun that way because it's just a bunch of guys that just want to be there and just aren't.
Right. The score doesn't matter.
Be there. They're choosing to be there, and it's not like, oh, you got to scrape them all together to get the squad there.
Yep.
Although I'd love to do that, but I don't have that right now.
That's what I like about my men's league team is I'm not the one in charge of gathering the team together. It's just I show up. I hope we have enough guys, and all but once in the last 5 years, we've had enough guys to play a game, so it's worked out. There's been a few times where we only had 5 or 6 skaters. In fact, when that happened, Emmons would take intentional penalties to get a 2-minute rest.
Sometimes you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, I don't know if he ever played on a intramural team with you, but I remember him doing this in intramurals, and I was ready for it in the first game we were playing together, and we had a nice lead. He was playing defense, and he starts skating up. No pressure, so he turns around and just rifles the puck at me to make sure I was paying attention.
Yeah, that sounds.
Yeah, but I've been doing a little bit of both. I skate on 2 different leagues, one at the Super Rink with the team I've been on for a couple of years now. And like you said, it's almost all firemen from Hugo, White Bear, and Stillwater. So our team name is the Hosers. It makes sense. And then I just started this year playing on a league out of 3M because I worked there as a contractor for a while. And it was one of the guys, he heard me talking one day and said I was a goalie. And all of a sudden he was like, "You're a goalie? Are you interested in playing?" I was like, "Absolutely." So I skate in those 2 leagues during the winter time. And then I've been doing some pickup skates out of Hudson, Wisconsin with this group called For the Love of Puck. They've started a documentary on just guys like us that, you know, we've come back to the game and we play because we love it. We love the camaraderie in the locker room, you know, where, I love going and skating. It feels good. It's kind of my therapy every week, but that banter in the locker room is half of it, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, were you a talkative guy in the locker room though when you played, Joe? Or because I remember myself, and even now, I'm not very talkative at all in the locker room because I'm a goalie.
Before games, I'm not talkative. After games, and even practice, it's like after the skate. Then I'm a little more talkative. But absolutely, before the game, even though it's beer league, I'm still closing my eyes. I'm doing the visualization. I still need that mental preparation, and you know, it's just I still get to the rink an hour before, whether it's a beer league game or a pickup skate. I need that hour to, first of all, because I've still got my pads from college where I got 8 straps on each pad. It takes me longer to get them on, but it's just I need that mental prep time. I don't know about you. I can't show up 5 minutes before and be ready to go.
So I'm a little bit of both. I really don't I won't get there an hour before anymore because here, at least around here, no one's there.
Right.
Know?
Oh, I spend a lot of time in the locker room before games.
Okay. And for me, it's just 30 minutes. I'll get there before and pretty much I'll get dressed without really saying much to anybody. You know, how are you? And then after it's, I'll say something, I'll talk, but I really don't get involved in a lot of the conversation now because a lot of the politics and everything, I don't really want to talk about that with you guys.
Yeah.
I like you right now. Why
Right.
would I want to ruin that experience?
I would say I've been pretty lucky in that the folks I've been skating with, they leave that at the door. When we're in the locker room, it's usually talking the game, what's going on in your own lives.
I think it's the way it should be.
Yeah.
I think that's the reason we all got to know each other in the first place.
Right. Exactly. It's let's talk about the good in our lives. We don't have to worry about all that other stuff creeping in. One of the things, we've been connected on social media for a while, and you've got a little guy. I've seen he's been skating.
Yeah.
I've seen he's put the pads on. Is he going full-time goalie these days, or is he?
12, yeah, he's 12 now. He's in his second year of Pee-wees. He put the pads on out of necessity last year, though he had a lot of interest. And yes, he's going full bore into playing goalie now. I don't know what his intentions are. I think he's just having fun. Yeah.
Okay, so now that you're a goalie dad, how do you enjoy watching those games compared to when you were the goalie?
I hate it. I really, that's one of the I coached for a while at the high school level, and I enjoyed that experience.
Yep.
For what it was. But I was and I coached my son when he was a forward, but then when he was a goalie, I'm a little leery to do that, because I am so critical of that position.
Yeah.
And it's not purposeful. It's just what I see is different than most people.
Yep.
What we see as goalies, the perspective from being at this side of the arena rather than right in the play.
Yep.
You get to see everything, and everything's sort of out in front of you in a funnel, and you just learn to sort of guide it in.
Yeah, it's always surprised me when goalies try talking to their teammates about you should be doing this or that, especially defensively in front of me, and they look at you and go, what do you know? You're a goalie. And it's like, well, we need to understand everything you do before we can even start with our position. I
think that definitely a lot of guys overlook that the perspective that we have is completely different than what they're looking at, and that we know where everyone is or it's going to be in a few seconds.
Yep. I've done some coaching at the high school level up here too, and I was primarily the goalie coach, but I handled the defense for our JV team, and there were a couple times the coach would look over at me and say, what are you seeing? Because we do see the game in a different light than they do. And sometimes I would share it and they go, okay, I can see that now, but I wasn't picking up on that. And at the same time, when we would do some of our summer skates and I would be skating out, just having fun. And the one coach looked at me and goes, you're pretty good when you skate out. It's like, well, yeah, I still understand the game. I can see where the, play is going. I can find the open space,
Yeah, I think a lot of goalies are like that. It just looks a little crazy when we're doing it, but generally we know where we're supposed to be and how to get, what time to get there.
We might not be pretty when we skate out, but we know how to read the play. We know where the open space is.
Looks like goalies skating forward.
Yeah.
Skate like goalies.
Yeah. So you don't enjoy being the goalie dad much. What does mom think about watching the little guy play goalie?
Let me just rephrase. I do enjoy being the goalie dad.
Right.
I find it.
You don't enjoy the games as much as you used to.
I find it stressful because I want to help him.
Yes.
And I want to but like any dad though, I don't say much.
Yeah.
At games where I'm glad that I'm able to do that and just sort of I sit back and let it happen because you can't control it. Parents forget sometimes. You can't.
We understand the pressure that's on the kids. My son, he's a baseball player and he loves to pitch. And every time they put him on the mound, it's just like, geez, let's get this done and over with quick because it's just that added stress. And even though I wasn't a baseball player, I wasn't a pitcher, I know the stress is very similar to a goalie because the outcome of the game, good or bad, really weighs on your performance.
You're the one guy out there. You're in the one position.
Yep, exactly. And so, yeah, my boy, he likes hockey. He likes skating on the pond, but up here, hockey's a little bit different where they skate, even at 12 years old, they're skating, 6 to 8 times a week, and they're taking the ice at 9:30 at night. And he had the option. He goes, that's too much for me. And, if we're getting on the ice at 9:30, that's usually when I'm getting ready for bed. I said, hey, that's a mature look at things. And so I appreciated that out of him. So what is the little guy, what does mom think about being a goalie mom? I know what my mom always said. She wished I would have stayed skating out.
I think his mom, she's a normal goalie mom. She
Yeah,
gets excited and
they love it. And hate it.
Yeah, and she enjoys it. I
Yeah,
think, for the most part.
yeah. She doesn't look at you and go, "Why did you have to do this to me?"
Not every day. No.
Yeah, but she's been
she does that.
She's been around it since she met you, though, so she knew what she was in for.
She did.
Yeah. So you're still playing. You're still getting some skates in, but like me, hockey isn't what defines you. What else do you do to kind of fill that? I'm not going to say void, but kind of to fill that balance in your life to keep you sane, especially these days.
Right now, it's been a challenge. In the last year, I co-own a business with my partner's a licensed massage therapist,
Mm-hmm.
and we incorporated the use of CBD products with the massage,
Mm-hmm.
which was her idea. And then we also sell CBD products, which a lot of different, all the different types,
Yeah.
categories of CBD. And right, but with COVID, we've had to do things like rent our space out for events.
Mm-hmm.
You have to become a hybrid to sort of survive now in this environment, especially in retail in Chicago. So different things we're going to have, lots of different things.
Putting that marketing degree to work, aren't you?
Definitely a lot of social networking, social media stuff. Just everything's reinventing today, right? So you're trying to just do it differently every day. And I also started a travel business over COVID, so I got my travel agents thing, so I can sell you a vacation if you'd like to go somewhere. But just different things to sort of just different streams of revenue to survive.
Yep. Yeah, and I like that. The everyday hustle. Don't settle on one thing. Keep it going. I like that. So when you're not working on the businesses, you're not playing hockey, what fills your time at home? I know for me, I do a lot of reading of history. That and projects around the house.
Honestly, Joe, I'm not home much these days. I'm running around a lot with the business and just my son and just general life. I'm trying to get into, there's also an emerging industry. It's kind of throughout the country right now. And I'm also trying to delve into that a little bit.
Yep.
And so that's taking up some of my time and resources, but different projects to sort of sustain myself at this point and help to save costs.
Yep.
And that's how I'm looking at things right now, because after what we've sort of been experiencing out here these days, I want to be ready for anything after.
Yeah, no, it's a good thing to do, because I think more and more people are going to start going that route, because there's a lot of people that this is all they've done for 15, 20 years, and now they can't do that. And they're not trained to do anything else, and it puts them in a really difficult place. Or they, don't know where to go to find other opportunities. So diversifying your talents is a great way to do things.
Really grateful for the education and the things that I've learned, that allowed me to do it. And being handy with the computer is very important.
Yep. And I know your degree was primarily graphic design. So when it comes to marketing in a small business, a lot of people don't realize how handy that is to be able to do some of that stuff yourself, because that can get pretty costly really quick.
That is true. And I think that, even here sometimes that gets overlooked, but I think yes, it saves a lot of money, and pretty much, all you got to do is get it printed.
Yep, exactly. It's funny sometimes where people are like, "Oh, just throw me together a logo. It should take you 5 minutes," and they laugh. And I'm going, "You know nothing about what you're talking about right now." It's like when people talk to us about goaltending and they have no idea what they're. You guys don't skate that much.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. They don't. And that's the other thing, Joe. I think we should really talk about that since we're talking about goalies today. Is I think that one thing that I don't see as much of is skills training. And I think for the goalies, I think they're left out of a lot of the circles and the crossovers and all that stuff, the power skating stuff. And I think it's super important to be a good, solid goalie. And I think that's shouldn't be. I think people ignore it and they're just up to the side.
That's a great point, because I know when we were coming up, that power skating at the end, it was all right. Let's get the Clydesdales in there. We're going to be a little bit slower, but we had to do those crossovers. We had to do all that stuff, the speed skating, and it made us better skaters. And that's why I think our generation, we were probably the best skaters on the ice, when we didn't have our pads on. Yeah. But these days, the position's gotten so technical. At those times, they're telling the goalies, okay, go off and work on your goalie specific drills. Some of these kids can't do a crossover with their pads on. And, for us, those overspeed drills at the end of practice, as much as I hated them, I loved them at the same time, because it's like, all right, I can do this just as well as you with all this stuff on. And I don't know about you, but it was almost like an inner competition with myself to be faster than somebody else on the, pick a guy on the ice. I want to catch him. I want to be faster than him with all this stuff on, with skates that have, more on the ice than they do, or
absolutely.
They don't have that today.
No, I think part of that's a mindset that doesn't exist today. It's not that sort of desire isn't stressed as much in that direction. I think it is more to be well-rounded and be good at all these different things, and then hone in on one thing and be really good at that. But I think it's important that I don't think I would have survived some of the stuff that I've gone through in the last 5 years had I not gone through all of those challenges, and had I not did that power skating. Because as much as you in the moment sometimes don't like what you're doing, it's making you better. And I'll tell you, the most rewarding thing is to do some of that stuff now when you're just messing around or showing someone or your son how to do something. Yeah. And you already know how to do it. You haven't done it in 20 years, and you can just bang it out.
Yeah. I always remember Coach Manor, when we were doing our overspeed drills, he would say, push yourself to the limit so that when you have to do it in a game, you're comfortable doing it. And that's, what those power skating drills are for. And at the same time in life, do those things you're not comfortable with, so that the more you do it, you become comfortable with it. It's not that big of a deal.
You're right. I don't think I knows how to push through pain, and that's one of the most important lessons in life. Even when you're getting beaten up and kicked down, you have to keep going, and you have to get up. And especially if you have kids, it makes it even more important.
Yeah. I mean, me and my wife, we always say that the most important job we have is raising our kids to, not be jerks. And part of doing that is setting the example, because that's the best way they're going to learn. But getting back to your point about goaltenders, and it's gotten so specialized. I've been listening to a lot of goalie podcasts lately, and they've been talking about this influx of Russian goalies lately. And one of the reasons they believe we're starting to see that is they're not getting that technical direction until they are older, until they're at that high school age. Much like you and I at that younger age, we're just figuring it out, which means we're kind of creating our own style. We're seeing some stuff, absorbing it, but it gives us this chance to understand the game a little bit better and think for ourselves, so that when we do get that technical training, it's like, oh, that makes sense. I can put that into my toolbox I already have and be more efficient, versus this is the only way I can stop a puck. I forget who I was listening to the other day, former NHL goalie, saying, he's done some of these camps with kids. These kids are better technically than he ever was, but in a game situation, they can't stop a puck because they don't know how to adapt to these broken plays and these broken situations.
And that is a lot of being a good goalie, I think, is, and I agree with you, is adapting, reading and reacting to what's happening.
Yep.
And knowing where people are in a certain situation, in any given situation.
Yep.
And either you have that or develop that, or you don't. You can't
Yep.
you can't just walk into a game and if you've never watched a game, really watch a game.
So many times in the games I play in these days, I see a puck going into the corner. I take a quick look to see, okay, what's out here? Because if they're not bringing the puck in front of me, I know it's going to them. I need to know, where am I pushing to? What kind of save selection do I have to think of? Where are my defense? Because I know they're most likely out of position. So,
I mean, it's messy, right? So,
yeah.
But absolutely, and you're trained to do that from a young age.
Yep.
The puck goes to the corner. The guy goes to the corner with the puck, and you got to know that this guy's going to be sitting on your doorstep behind you.
Yep.
So when he goes across ice with that, across the middle with that puck, you're there before he gets there, before he gets a chance, and you're already got the angle.
Well, and that's where I think my flexibility really came into play. Is these days I'm considered a short goalie at 5'10".
Right.
So for me to get that back door, I had to get that toe over there. Well, how do I do that? Flexibility. Because in our day, that push kids use today, you weren't doing that in our pads, so we had to have a way to get over there.
But I appreciate that they've thrown that into the game now, right? Because I've adapted that into my game a little bit. I'm not the best. I don't do it the way everyone does it, but I use it to my advantage. So, like, if they're going behind the net, post to post,
yep.
I may use that just to get there.
Absolutely. And there was one thing I remember picking up from you, is that post to post. If they were going to my stick side, I remember you'd be down on the one knee and you'd have your hand up at the knob and you'd just swing that stick around. And what that did is it forced them not to do the wraparound. They had to come all the way around. And that just gave us that little extra time to get all the way over and really get set to defend that. And it's those little things that with that push you don't need, but what it does is it allows that skater to come around a lot quicker.
I appreciate you picking up on that, and just sort of touching on that part of my game, is because I'm always very active with my stick. And for me, it was like having an offensive weapon in the goal.
Yep.
And I grew up sort of digging on Ron Hextall, and the way he played the game, and Brodeur, the way they scored, both the way they scored goals, and just that they were able to really handle the puck as well as everybody else, it forced people away from the net, which gave me more time and gave us time.
Exactly. That little extra time it takes them to skate out around the stick was all we needed to get across and seal it off. I mean, today the RVH is huge for closing off that seal. It works great, but what we're also seeing is that's good for when they're in tight. And so many times I see it, not just in beer league, not just at the high school level, but even the NHL level, they'll be on the half wall and they're in the RVH. And then they're wondering why they're getting scored on over their ears. Well, the guy has room. The RVH is for when you're in close.
All right.
We were almost doing that before it was a thing, but it was when they were in close to give us a chance to get over there.
So are you, since you're 5'10" also, I use the RVH less. I have adapted into more of a hybrid stand-up.
Yep.
Where it's, I do better in those angle situations if I stay up and wait it out.
Yeah.
Then going down, because what happens when I go down is I always kind of shift my right a little bit, if it's, and they'll get me short side
Yep.
on my club, and that's just inappropriate. I can't have it.
The way I was taught to cover the post was stand up, you hug that post. That post is in your elbow. If it's on your glove side, that glove is turned around to catch any pucks being shot out in front of you. And the stick's over there trying to block a pass. Other side, that sticks out, and I always keep that glove ready for that quick pass out in front. But it was Donnie that freshman year, he said, be the door. If they're below the goal line, you're parallel with the goal line. As soon as that puck steps on the other side of the goal line, the door opens and you go like that on that post and take that shot away.
I attack it. I am aggressive. I'll come out on you now.
Yep.
I don't sit. I'll go to the top of the crease, a little further.
Yep.
But I'm not sitting back on the goal line like some of these guys are, and I'm not dissing it. It works for these big guys because they don't need.
Right, their shoulders are at the crossbar when they're down.
But if you're 5'10" and your game is all about agility and quickness, you need your angles and you need to be aggressive on these guys.
Well, and you and I have some tight crouches. We get down low, so if we're down on our knees to begin with, we're even lower than these guys. So even in our crouch, I think we're down lower than they are when they're down in the butterfly.
I think I've learned to do this a lot and stand up a little more. Yeah.
Yep. I definitely have taken my glove from the side to up like this when they're further out. You can almost tell how close they are to me by where the glove is positioned. Because I've learned if they're at the hash marks, I don't need it up here because odds of them getting it up there, I can have it here and still cover that crossbar.
Give me 1 second.
Yep.
Sorry, guys. Special delivery.
No worries. It's like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
You just never know when it's going to be stopping by.
Yeah. But
I love it over here. We're in Forest Park, Joe. It's not far from where did you grow up?
I grew up in the Beverly Mount Greenwood neighborhood on the south side near Oak Lawn.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm on Madison Street, so I'm at 0.
Yep. Yeah.
I like it over here.
Oh, good. So my goal is to end every episode asking some rapid fire questions.
Yes.
So the first one is craziest coach moment from your playing days. Coach either going ballistic, practice game, whatever.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, let's hear all the questions and I'll come up with something.
Favorite barn you played in? Favorite all-time goalie mask? Favorite stick you've ever used? Favorite youth hockey memory? And I would say youth hockey could even go back up to college. Your favorite penalty? Favorite chirp? Worst post-game beer you've ever had? Do you tape the stick heel to toe or toe to heel? Your favorite number and advice for young goalies?
Wow, that's a lot of questions. Okay, so, all right. So first, the coaching moment, I guess I had this one coach. His name was Olson, and it wasn't the one from college. It was
okay.
And he just yelled a lot. I just remembered like a lot of. I don't remember the specifics, but I just remember his face would get red, and he had this mustache, and his cheeks would shake. But he knew what he was talking about.
It's kind of like the coach from Letterkenny.
That's the way we were coached at times, and in certain situations when you knew you knew better. In those days, that's how we were taught.
Yeah,
we got it. We knew it. We didn't do it the next time.
Right.
The second couple times after that.
Right.
And it works for us. What's the next question?
Favorite rink you played in, or even still play in?
Wow, favorite arena I've ever played in was. I have to go with. Actually, we've already mentioned the United Center, so I'm going to go with Le Colisée in Quebec.
Okay.
So that was a really cool experience, that whole tournament, that whole experience. That was a Pee Wee year, and yeah, that was – the Nordiques still existed. So, how could I go?
We're showing our age there.
Yeah, but that's all right. That just
Yeah.
makes, I think it makes us better. We're
Yeah.
fine.
Yes, we're seasoned.
Yeah.
Your favorite all-time goalie mask doesn't have to be yours, but favorite one you've ever seen.
So the ones that stick out most to me, I think it was Jeff Hackett. He had the shark mask. He
Okay.
literally had the shark eating his head.
Oh, that was Steve Shields.
Was it Shields?
Yeah, because Hackett had the combo when he was in San Jose, but that was Steve Shields' masks. But I know what you're talking about.
Maybe. Okay. But it was, I mean, maybe a few guys have done it, though.
Yeah.
I think it was before that.
Yeah, the first one to do it, that was a Greg Harrison mask. I remember that one.
Okay. And then, you know, the Potman masks stick out for me. Felix Potman was an influence for me
Yeah.
just because of the way he played. He was a smaller guy.
Yeah.
And he played, I feel like I have similar traits to the way I play.
I can see that.
And Brodeurs masks, because here's why I like Brodeur, because from a graphic design standpoint, whoever was in charge of creating his persona, he had a theme from the beginning, just like Pop did. He had a theme from the beginning, and it rolled throughout his career in one way or another. And a lot of these guys, you know, they had these great designs, and they were all over the place. There was no theme. There was a theme to it, but it was just way too much for me to look at. So that
I remember talking to Todd Miska about that, and you know, the goalies of our era, they had this persona. They always had masks for their team, but a lot of them had a mask that could go from team to team. Potman's a great example. Curtis Joseph, Eddie Belfour, they all had a mask that was, you knew it was them. It didn't matter what team they were with. You knew who it was because of their mask. You know, you don't get that much. Probably the last one to really have that was Marty Turco with the gargoyle. But to me, there was so much going on. It wasn't as.
It was a little busy, right? But
yeah.
But I mean, you brought up a lot of good names there, and I think that's sort of lost in the NHL now.
Yeah.
But I think it's kind of coming back.
Yeah, I agree.
It's kind of come to goalies and go, and come to goalies and go. But I think I think they're really important characters on all these in all of these organizations, because they really can dictate how your season goes. You know, in a lot of different ways. But they're all characters in their own way, and I think that's sort of ignored, because some of these characters should not be ignored.
No, no. I think back to all the teams I've played on, the goalies I've skated with, they're all characters in their own way, more than almost any other player I've skated with. There are a few interesting characters that were forwards, but the goalies, you know, and I don't consider myself to be the weirdest of goalies. I'm probably considered more normal on the spectrum. That's not saying much, but I've still got my quirks, and people are like, yep, you were an interesting one in the locker room.
Yeah, I think, you know, like you said, a lot of that stuff does go away over time, or kind of dissipates a little bit. But yeah, you know, there's certain things that you just always did a certain way. So you just do it that way because it might affect something. Yeah. It doesn't really mean it's going to affect anything, but to us, it's just a matter of routine and just feeling like everything's in place when you're going into that situation. You're going into battle. You know, you see these, for example, on Prime, they had this show Vikings. But the guys would always gear up for battle, and they would get ready the same way. They were, you know, there was always something symbolic that they did, or just got you ready for that moment.
Well, I remember as a kid going to the firehouse with my dad. When those bells went off and we were on the rig going to a fire, when they knew it was a working fire, there was just certain ways guys would, they got their game face on. It was the way they put their air bottle on, and just different ways. It's how you mentally get in that space. I know for me, it wasn't that I was superstitious. It was, this is how I mentally get prepared. Now, if I did something different this time, I wasn't the kind of guy that was like, okay, I got to take all my equipment off and do it over.
Nor was I.
But I know goalies that they could be about ready to put their mask on and realize they put their jersey on different today, and they would take everything off. And it's like, why? Come on. So this is one of those interesting questions I threw in there. Your favorite stick you've used, stick model?
Um, I don't know. Right now, I don't remember all the sticks I use, but right now I'm using a Bauer 170, and I know it's not all that great, but it has this sort of bend in the paddle.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a Curtis curve, but it's got like, it's for where your finger goes, so that when you put your,
kind of like a trigger grip.
well, kinda, it just sort of waffles in a little bit. I can't quite explain it, but it has.
Yeah.
I'll bring it the next time if we
Yeah.
do this again.
I know exactly what you're talking about. That you
I
see
like
that
it.
on a lot of the Bauer sticks now.
Yeah, and I don't know why I like it, but it feels good, and I get a good shot with it.
Yeah, I have not made the switch to composite sticks, and I think the main reason is because I'm cheap. Clearly, is I'm using 20-year-old equipment still.
Okay, but I've had this stick for 5 years, 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
I've gone through maybe 2. I have 4 sticks right now, but I have 2 because I left the 2 in storage for a while and didn't want to go get them.
Yeah.
And the others, but I like the composites. I'd never go back. I can't.
Yeah.
Feel once you change, and get used to the composite. I can go back.
Yeah. I have a feeling my next stick will be a composite. When they first came out, I was still coaching at the time, and some of my goalies had them, and they weren't durable. So at that point, it's like, no way am I going composite. They're breaking every 2-3 weeks. Now the technology has come a long way. They last.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm willing to pay the money for something that's going to last. But I know the Warrior foam core I've had, I'm on, I think, year 3 or 4 with it. So I'm going to use that thing till it's dead. I still have one of the CCM Colzigs from St. Mary's as my backup. That thing hasn't broken yet.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I don't remember liking a lot of the sticks I had.
No, I used the Christians a lot just because I was used to those heavy logs because I used Christian a lot in youth hockey. So, and I like the taller paddle where I know you used the Cohos a lot that we got in, but the Christian had the taller paddle, the longer paddle, and I liked that. Even though I had a low crouch, I like a tall stick for some odd reason. It works for me. I have to say my favorite goalie stick of all time, pattern-wise or model-wise, was the Bauer Reactor 5 Belfour. Something about that stick. It was a really thin paddle. It didn't have that roundness to it, which made gripping the paddle just something about it I really liked, and they were pretty durable too and light sticks for the time.
So I will say that I don't remember that one in particular, but I will say that you brought up Christian, and I remember having, when I was playing AAA, I did have a need for a lot of sticks, and they were still wood at the time, and I had a Christian sticks made, and they were blue with silver writing.
Yeah.
And they had the name on it, so that would have to probably be my favorite stick.
Yeah. Christian, those sticks, yeah, they were heavy, but God, did they last. I mean, every so often the heel would start to take on water and would start to split. But when I was buying my own sticks, I would throw a little wood glue in there, put it in the vise overnight, and it's like a brand new stick. Sure.
Yeah, I think our parents liked them too because they lasted a little bit longer than the rest.
Yep.
Yeah. That composite.
Yeah. So the next question is favorite youth hockey memory. I'm going to probably guess it was winning that national championship.
Yeah, that would.
That's kind of a no-brainer.
State championship would be a close second.
Yep. Yeah, no-brainers there. So the next question is kind of could go either way. It's favorite penalty. It could either be one you've taken, one you've seen be taken, or just one you like to see called.
Favorite penalty that I've taken?
It's up to you how you want to answer that one.
I think misconducts are always interesting.
Yeah.
I think whenever a misconduct is involved, there's always something that's happened out of character or out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
So definitely those would be my favorites.
Your favorite chirp you've heard, and just from practice alone, I know you've probably got a bunch you could pull from. Not to mention there's probably quite a few that probably shouldn't be aired.
Yeah, my favorite chirp. I'll have to think about that one.
Worst post-game beer. I know for me, it's whenever somebody brings the beer and it's warm?
Oh, yeah, warm beer's never good for me, but I don't know, I'm not a big fan of it. Remember we used to drink a lot of Busch Light in college? I don't prefer that one.
Yeah, that's probably a good answer. I was last episode I had Dustin Smith, the Nashville E-Bug, on, and he said he came to Minnesota for a game, and afterwards they had beers out in the parking lot, but it was in the middle of winter. So for him being from Nashville, he said it wasn't that the beer was bad, it was that the experience being out in the cold was bad.
There
So
you go.
that's fair.
That's half the battle, right? You
Yeah.
know, have a good situation or good conversation. Good
Yeah. You know, I said that's just part of the experience for us, having them out there in the snow. You don't have to worry about keeping the beer cold. You know, just set it right. You can take more than 15 minutes to drink the beer at that point.
Right. You have a little snow up there, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So when you tape your stick, is it heel to toe or toe to heel?
Oh, toe to heel.
Interesting. I'm heel to toe. So do you tape the whole toe, or do you leave a little bit exposed?
Absolutely not. So what I do is I take one strip of tape.
Yeah.
And then I put it on around the front of the toe.
Okay, so you do it that way. You're not one of those weirdos that tapes it and then pulls the scissors out.
Yep. So
okay.
I start, everything goes in from there. Stops at I stop around the heel somewhere, wherever that comfortable spot is for me. But then I like to do a handle on the top.
Yep.
Not just the ball on top. I'll actually tape the handle like a.
Yeah, I do the grip too.
Where you braid it up a little bit.
Yep.
So,
I do that at the I guess you could call it the heel where the paddle meets the shaft. I put a grip there as well. I've done that for I've done that for years.
That I never did, but the top one I like.
Yeah. I was doing that at the top until Bud Ends came out with their Century grip, and the knob for that is exactly the same size as the knob I've been doing. Now, it doesn't have the grip that I would typically put on there, but it comes down the exact same amount that I would do every time. Yeah. And even though it doesn't have that braid on there, the material still has the grip on there. So it works perfect for me and saves time putting it on. Favorite number?
So when I was playing, it was 35. I mean, there's
same here.
That was it. That was my favorite number. Now I'm rocking 53.
Why 53? That's not a typical goalie number.
Actually, I mean, the way I looked at it was all these guys are doing whatever the heck they want with their numbers now. It's like there's some out there numbers in the 70s.
Yeah, the Edmonton goalie with 19.
Right. So, and my son, he decided that he was going to take after his uncle and wear 18 instead of his father who wore 35. Like a normal goalie number, but he went to the forward number. It's all good. I don't care. So that just made me be like, okay, well, this is men's league now. This is like new Eric. You're coming back to hockey.
Yeah. Reinvent yourself.
You're going to flip it around. And that's what I did.
I like it.
I asked for it now.
So I was wearing 30 until high school, and then I went to 35 and loved that number. But when I got to college, some other goalie had 35, so I couldn't wear it. So I went to the cabinet they kept all the jerseys in and found the biggest jersey they had, and it happened to be 39. So that's been my number since.
Well, the Hasek, that's how
yeah.
you got the Hasek.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and then I wore the Hasek helmet after my one concussion until I got the next concussion, wearing that helmet, and the coaches and parents were like, "You need to go back to a mask."
But that was probably a smart move and probably the right time to do it at that point.
Yeah, and what's funny is the whole time I wore that mask, I loved it. It was light, great peripheral vision. The mobility was great because I didn't wear the dangler. I could look down, more than with a traditional mask. And the whole time I had it, no pucks to the neck. And really it was only that one puck to the head, which happened to be at practice. And Joe Duda took the shot. And if you remember him, he had no control over his shot, but he had one of the hardest shots, and it just hit me square on the Cooper, broke the helmet, and got another concussion. And everybody said, time for a mask again. So I said, all right. So any advice for young goalies?
Yeah. Focus on your angles. I mean, I think that's the big key to the game. You know, keeping your stick in front of you and staying on your angles. That's 80%.
I would agree. My goalie coach that I went to for goalie camps when I was a young one, you know, he said it doesn't matter what style you play if you've got good angles.
And always keep your chest centered on the puck.
Yeah.
If you do that, if you keep that in mind, odds are with you.
Yeah, exactly.
The one thing I did want to mention, you mentioned your concussions. I recently had the opportunity through our CBD store here to meet Daniel Carcillo.
Yeah, he's been doing some great stuff with concussions. I've been following him for a while on what he's gone through.
Yeah, and he did recently retired with several concussions. But he's gotten into the company's called Made Plant Health.
Yeah.
And we're now working with that company. So they're doing a lot of really cool things and really productive, health conscious things with mushrooms and CBD.
Yeah. Well, and it's not backed by science too.
I'm talking medical mushrooms.
Yep. And microdosing.
Good for brain health and cognitive wellness, you know, and just generally staying well. And I think all of us as hockey players and goalies alike, as we get older, we need a little bit of something to stay sharp. And then I invite everybody to do their research.
Yeah.
We're definitely looking at products like that.
Yeah, I've been following Dan's journey for a while, and what I really appreciate about it, one, he's been so transparent with his journey, and I think it was through that I realized that from my concussions, there's a chance, you know, some of my irritability and anxiety is from concussions.
Sure.
And it's because of his transparency that I started making those connections, but also I appreciate that his journey has been science-based and not just self-medication. It's very much with the help of experts. And, you know, he's been big on the microdosing right now, not necessarily doing it, but understanding there's studies out there. What are they showing, you know, and could it be beneficial? I know the VA hospital is doing a lot of studies with microdosing for PTSD with our vets, because they're finding it's a healthier alternative to some of these other medications they've been giving people. And because it's plant-based and not man-made, it's better for the system. It makes sense, you know.
It really does. And I think him being involved in something like that, or these players starting to get involved in mental, you know, wellness and general health conscious products, I think it's going to be a really good thing for America and just guys in general. You know, I know that as a hockey player and just, you know, doctor, you didn't want to go to the doctor, you didn't want to go to the hospital, and then something was wrong, right? Well, now if you just take care of yourself a little bit in smart ways, you know, reach your products and know what you're taking, make sure it's organic, whatever it is that is important to you. I think this is there's some really good products out there, like the Neuroflex and the main.
Yeah. Well, and the work that guys like Carcillo are doing is it's taking away the stigma I think hockey players have had of, you know, it's just a concussion. It's not a big deal. Well, it is, and it's got lasting effects that you don't necessarily realize until much later, where you're better off sitting down for 2 weeks and making sure you're good rather than rushing back and it getting worse, because the brain is a muscle that and the problem is everybody's brain is different. So it's not like if you break an arm and they can set it and say you're good to go in 6 to 8 weeks. Everybody's on a different schedule. And so, you know,
right.
I was one of those people. I could bounce back faster from a brain injury, but certain teammates like Hops, it essentially ended his career.
You're right, and I remember that, and it just really, and also how you were hit in that situation, and
Absolutely.
what position your body was in, all these different factors figure in, and it just is more and more important, especially with what you're seeing in football as well, with the head injuries and hockey now. All the different sports, there could be head injuries. So
yeah, it's
in baseball, the guy could slide into the catcher head first and have a concussion. But taking care of yourself is the most important thing. And I think with that's why I'm in this business right now with CBD and some of the general wellness products that we do and incorporating in the massage. It makes people feel better.
Yep.
And it's a good thing. Taking that, again, another thing, sorry, Joe, is also taking that stigma away from CBD and hemp and cannabis.
Yep.
Because there is a place in medicine for these products. It helps people. It may not help you or somebody else, but there are people that it does help.
Yep.
So
it's like any medicine. It's going to work for some, not others.
Exactly.
And I think the biggest issue is our doctors aren't using it for everyday prescriptions right now. So a lot of it right now has been more self-medicated. People understand it can help them. They self-medicate, where I believe if our healthcare system incorporated it more, it could be much more impactful. I know I've used some of the balms on achy knees and joints after games, and it helped. The one I had, it reminded me of Icy Hot. Icy Hot, it felt like you put it on, it felt great for 5 minutes, and then the aches and pains started coming back. But the stuff I had, it had that relief, but for a sustained amount of time. And sometimes that's all you need.
I got one like that. I'll send it out to you.
Yeah.
See if you like it.
Yeah. So where can people find you online, social media? Where can they find you if they want to learn more about you or the company?
Sure. We're at cbdbodyhigh.com. You can get all our social links on the website.
Yeah. I'll put them in the show notes.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And personally, I'm at etrgraphics.com. That's my portfolio page. And I also have a travel website at erichtravels.com. So I'm kind of all over the place. You
kind of your game.
If you miss me, then you won't know.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm trying to just really as many streams of revenue or ways to generate income as possible. I'm trying to delve into right now.
Absolutely. Well, Richie, thanks. I appreciate it. I'm sure we'll probably talk again at some point. And next time I'm in town or next time you're up in the Twin Cities, we're going to have to get together for a beverage or two.
Love to. Yeah. I appreciate you inviting me onto the show, Joe. And
yeah.
I'm grateful for the opportunity, and I hope we get to do it again soon. I enjoyed this time.
Absolutely. We may have to do a special episode where we get some of us St. Mary's goalies on. I want to thank you for listening to this episode of Tendy Talk. I need to thank my guest and former teammate, Eric Richardson, for being gracious with his time today. Links for the different ways to follow Eric and his different business ventures can be found in the episode's show notes. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Simply search for Washed Up Goalie and I'll pop up. Visit washedupgoalie.com for some great hockey-related content, my beer league hockey video highlights, and all podcast episodes. I need to give a big thank you to the great hockey band, the Zambonis, for allowing me to use their music in my intro and closing of my episodes. Download their music on iTunes, listen to them on Amazon Music, or wherever you stream your music from. Word is they're working on a new album as well, so keep your eyes out for that. I'm working on lining up other goalies to talk to as well. I'm really excited about some I've lined up. A couple are going to be on as things settle out this fall, so I'm really excited to talk to them. If you're a goalie or have connections to a goalie who I should talk to, shoot me an email at washedupgoalie39@gmail.com or send me a DM on social media. And finally, if you like what you hear, be sure to subscribe, rate, comment on the podcast platform you are listening on. It's a quick action on your part, but it helps others find Tendy Talk. Until next time, keep your stick on the ice and your body square to the puck.